So in the late 70s, starting with you, Adam, what could you hear in New York?
The thing about New York is that you walk everywhere and there's just so many radios coming out of stores and just cars. There's just sounds everywhere. And so there were songs that we loved on AM radio and just like the popular songs when we were kids. But then you'd hear all these other sounds that would sort of get you interested. Like, what is that? Later down, when we got older, you'd be like, oh, that's that thing. So you said you appreciate playlists. So I had a lot of songs, and I did my homework as what was asked of me. 15 songs. It was hard to choose. There was a lot of songs. I finally picked. I committed to my 15, and then I went back and I put them in alphabetical order.
Ah.
What the
So
what? But wait, Adam. What the f is that? Alphabetical. I mean, I understand what alphabetical, but in this context, like I went chronological. Wouldn't chronological make more sense?
Chronologically speaking, where do we begin? Do we begin with, well, you've begun with Paul Simon.
The interesting thing with pop radio in the 70s is that, yeah, the songs had to be popular. Like you weren't going to hear Velvet Underground, on AM radio, but there wasn't like it's not like a format like white, black, or like disco versus rock. You heard all different types of groups, and so for some reason, Paul Simon, I just always remember hearing that song. I would also hear Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard, but you'd hear that song, 50 Ways to Lose My Lover, would come on, and it was like he's kind of rapping in a way, and it has like a beat at the beginning, and so I was just like it got my attention right away as being something different, and it interested me in a certain way, and just the idea that music could be different. I mean, I have to mention the Ramones because I think the Ramones were the first band that probably both Adam and I looked at and listened to and loved and thought, oh, we could do something like that. But the thing is that when you're a kid, it's like comic books combined with great pop songs, but it also really feels like you could do it. Like when you look at the Ramones, like you feel like I'm going to pick up a guitar and learn all these Ramones songs right now. And it's not that because it isn't that hard. It's not that hard to learn them. It's just, but the fact that they wrote them and they did it so well is really incredible.
When you're sitting around, you're working out what you want to make and how you want to make it. Was hardcore playing a role, in your mind when you started making rap records?
Well, one thing is we knew we wanted to make short rap songs like the Ramones, like punk songs, right? That was one of the things that we sort of talked about was, because the older rap records were all like the Jimmy Spicer record that I'm talking about. It's like 10 minutes long and he's still rapping as the song fades out.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
And
we
that
wanted
that
to have,
was and that was the format too. Like it
yeah.
wasn't just Jimmy Spicer. Like it was every rap record was a 12-inch, and they just would just keep it going as long. The idea wasn't to have tight songs. It was almost more like in this I guess like dance slash like disco mode of like keeping people dancing for a long time or something. But then, Rick had a huge impact on us. Like Rick taught us about heavy metal. We weren't like none of us listened to metal records because we were too into being punk and and then discovering like other like weird downtown music. And then when Rick played us like Led Zeppelin and AC/DC or Black Sabbath, whatever, we were listening to we were like, oh, like these records actually there's drum breaks on these things. But then it's also we were like what we started to love them. We started to appreciate the music, which was like kind of out of bounds for us just being punk rock kids. So anyway, Rick introduced that, and then Rick also, Rick knew how to take what we were doing and make it sound like get on the radio.
At what point did you realize coming out of License to Ill that it wasn't even wanted to, you needed to swerve?
Well, that's because we had a break with Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons and Def Jam Records. We had to get away from them. We had to get off that record label.
And that was a case of finances? That was a financial decision based on the way the contract was structured?
It was financial and friend decisions.
Well, friend, financial, and and creative differences. I mean, first, let me be fair. Rick had bounced out, and he had the place that we could hang out, where he had the PA system and the turntables and the drum machine, you know, and he was like a DJ. He would get records from the record pool, so of course we go there every day. Um, and then Rick was already starting to make, you know, he made a rap record with with Tila Rock and Jazzy Yours. That's like a legit, you know, great and kind of like important early rap record. And so that was like a big deal to us. Um, right. So we like looked at it like we're in this scene, you know, we'd come from this punk rock scene, so we looked at it the same way. Like we're all friends here. We're all in this together. I don't think we could really you know, we didn't have the maturity to see how Russell's ambition was different than ours and also different than Rick's. And that Rick's ambition was different than ours. And ultimately it was actually all okay. Like everybody is all right to have different ambitions. You know, it just nobody when you're 18 and 19 years old, nobody communicates that clearly with each other.
So on songs on License to Ill, we got really into loops and throwing in like weird scratches of records and trying to make it as weird as possible. And Rick was wanted to make it as clean as possible and pop as possible, which is cool that he wanted to do that, and cool that we wanted to make it our way. So when everything fell apart, we are like, let's get out of here. We went to Los Angeles and we decided to make another record, and we decided to put every crazy idea that we had in the record.
Yeah.
All right, so let me say something. I'm going to say something now. So, you know, I spent, you know, a few minutes on my playlist, okay? So I'm going to talk about some of the songs that are on my playlist.
Oh, wait. Are you getting defensive right now?
I put the Rolling Stones song Shattered on my list for a few different reasons. One, because it's a great song, great band, right? It is one of the best New York songs of all New York songs. But I put it on my list for a specific reason. So I used to go, excuse me for picking my nose. I used to go to my mom's friend's house a lot when I was a kid. And she, the friend had these older brothers, and they had the record, Some Girls, Rolling Stone. And I used to listen to that record all the time, specifically Shattered, because their record had a skip in the middle, right before like the fourth chorus, and it was a perfect loop. And so it would skip and loop and skip and loop, and that was my introduction to sampling. And so that's why it's on my list.
I've really enjoyed talking with you. Good luck with the movie, Beastie Boys Story, on Apple TV Plus. We're proud to be a part of it. We didn't really get a chance to talk about Spike, but I know that Spike and you've had a lot of conversations together in promotion for the movie, so I don't feel too bad about it. But shouts to the great Spike Jones. Great Spike Jones.
Well, Spike will be joining us saying on the Echo Chamber.
Well, there you go. I lift you some. I lift you something.